Hello, it's me, um, Stephen, or SK, I guess. That's my professional name. I'll say SK just because it's quicker, saves time. Um, I think I guess the purpose for this video is I was looking at the first video I recorded, and was yeah, quite sort of like surprised just how much I kind of waffled on and lost my trail of thought. Um, Ended up talking about childhood pets and going off. So I kind of thought that I'd do another video um, that was a bit more focused on my writing process. I've made no notes. Um, I was thinking of sort of getting a little bit of structure, but I couldn't really be bothered. Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna go through, talk about some notes. Again, look at the blotchy skin. Um, so yeah, um, I guess for people, I mean, the only people, if there is anyone watching this, they will know my kind of, I guess, my background. Um, but I'll kind of go over it again in terms of my writing background, um, just because I think it'll be kind of interesting again for maybe the one person that is watching this. I was thinking as well, like in terms of making the video, in terms of making videos, one of the one of the interesting things is when I see people go on YouTube and they make videos, I always kind of think people are looking to kind of get rich or famous from it. They're looking to become a sensation, for their page to go viral. I literally expect no one to watch these videos. Maybe apart from maybe a couple of people that are sort of bored or on the toilet, um, straining out. Um, but I think it's really interesting for me to make these videos simply because it's interesting when I meet people that don't sort of like come from a writing background. They always kind of ask me what type of stuff do I write about, or if I mention that I've published a book, I've got another one coming out. They kind of ask me what is it about, and I always struggle with it because the two journals, they're not fiction books. I can't just say, oh, I've written a book about a policeman that discovers a body and then this happens. I always kind of stumble. So I think in terms of making these videos, perhaps it's kind of good for me to watch back and to kind of to try and learn from the words that come out of my mouth. It reminds me of I touched upon in the first video when I was at uni, and when I was at uni, we had these things called rolling critiques, which was where like a dozen students would sort of sit around in a half circle, and there would be a tutor there, and you'd have your artwork, your painting or your sculpture up, and you would talk about your work, and then the students would sort of ask questions, they'd discuss it among themselves, and it was always really an interesting process to because you in your head you couldn't sort of think, well, I know what my work's about, but when it comes to actually explaining it verbally, it's a different thing, and suddenly you think, well, what is it about, and what do I want to sort of achieve, whether it be painting or now writing. Um, so I think, yeah, definitely it's about me sort of trying to learn, I guess, from the babble that that comes out my mouth. Um, so yeah, what's the deal with my writing? I mean, I discussed a bit yesterday in terms of why I write, but what's the deal with my writing? Um, I going back a few years, I had, as I mentioned in the first video, a live journal. I think live journal is still around. I think it was like one of the very first kind of blogging websites before blogging was really kind of what it is now. And LiveJournal was kind of like WordPress. It was very basic, and you'd go and you'd write stuff on this online journal, and you publish it and you meet people. And I used to I used to write quite regularly. You know, I started off in about 2003. I created my LJ in 2003, and I'm not going to say what it is, what the name of it is, just because I don't really think anyone would be that interested. In the first journal, for anyone that's read it, there are a few. There's about several pieces which I took. I went on LJ. My account is still active, and I found my old live journal account, and I took several pieces that I wrote. A couple from 2008 and 2009, 2011, and they're in the first journal. They're the pieces that the title is the date, like 20th of January 2009. Those are the LJ pieces. So I was doing this. I was doing this a long time ago, but I didn't consider myself a writer back in 2003. Up until really between 2003 and 2009 was when I really worked on it. And then I didn't touch it at all in 2010. And then it was sort of quite sporadic up until about 2013. I maybe touched it once a year or something. So in those initial sort of 6-7 years between 2003 and 2009 was when I used to work on LJ. And I said I didn't refer to myself as a writer. At that time, I was just I was studying sort of at uni, and painting was my thing. But I always enjoyed going on LJ and just writing. No one, I had a handful of followers, but I didn't really do it to grow a following. I just did it because I enjoyed writing. It was always very pleasurable, not in a rude way, but pleasurable to express myself and just to write down what was on my mind. And I think at that point I always knew that I guess I had a sort of a way with words. I mean, in terms of grammar and punctuation, horrific, absolutely horrific. I never used capitals. I never used even full stops. Sometimes I couldn't even bother to use full stops. But so yeah, I was writing for several years on and off on LJ, just for the hell of it, just because it was what I enjoyed doing, and no one was looking at it really, apart from a few sort of core followers. Um, and then I left uni, um, and then I decided, you know what, I really, I, I, I really want to write. I want to take my writing seriously. And like I said, I made a boo boo. I made a boo boo in terms of not going into short stories and getting into the LJ again. I started work on the novel. Um, and I was on and off on the novel really between 2009 and 2013. It was, going into 2014 as well. So, about 4 or 5 years, I was just hell bent on getting the novel done. Um, I won't really talk that much about the novel. It's still ongoing. It's something that I haven't really touched in about a year. I've been concentrating on the blog and the journal, but the story's there, the seed's there, the energy is still there, and at one point I will pick it up. I think I just need to improve. That was the problem. I just wasn't good enough to get the novel done. But the novel was it started off. It's kind of a love story gone bad. I think it does kind of fit into the Damn Lovers. It fits under the Damn Lovers banner, I think, which is interesting because when I first started it, it was more sort of influenced by sort of serial killers, as if that's a surprise. But now, on reflection, I think that it would be it would be it would really fit under the Damned Lovers banner. But yeah, so it was a love story gone wrong, and there was time travel and portals and all that kind of shit involved. So when I'm ready, I'll get back into it. But I toiled away for that for a number of years, and then, as I mentioned in the first video, for reasons, I started up WordPress, and I remember starting it up. I was living in a town called Hatfield at the time, which is a small town in England. And it was like one Sunday I just thought, fuck it, I'll start this WordPress up. I think I can't remember maybe a couple of people I knew had WordPress accounts, so I knew the name from that. And I just thought, you know what, fresh slate. I won't sort of go back onto LJ. Um, I'll start up a WordPress account, and I started it up, very basic. And I didn't. And again, I was writing because I was in love, and I just wanted to write how I felt. And so again, at the time, my writing was really just for that one other person. I wasn't really writing because I wanted to reach out to other people. I wasn't really writing because I thought it would help me develop. I just wanted to write for this one person in my life. And then after several months, I was working on WordPress, and again, some of the stuff is in the first journal. It's heavily edited, but I'm proud of some of the stuff that's in the first journal. But after several months, I looked at what I was doing, and I sort of, you ask yourself that question: what am I doing? What am I doing this for? And it's a difficult question, it's one that it sounds really simple, like when someone says, "What's your writing about? What's your art about?" But then when you actually try and come up with a response, I tend to find, well, it's difficult. I think if you read my writing, much the same as in the same way as if you used to look at my paintings, I think you could come to your own conclusion. But in terms of me asking myself, what is my writing about? That's where it gets a little bit tricky. Um, I think that I think that for me personally, with my writing, what if someone asks me what my writing about is about, I always say that it's personal reflections. I embellish and I create. I write fictional things that haven't happened, but I always try and write from the heart. Even if I make something up, even if I create a scenario, it's still based on I still take from memories. I still take from things that have happened to me, personal experiences, emotions. In much the same way, I guess that I've always been influenced by music. I'm drifting again. I'm drifting already. I can feel myself drifting away from the question, but fuck it. Um, Much the same way that when you listen to music, well, the music I listen to, unlike some of the shite that's out there, it's always whether it be Elliott Smith or uh, um, I'm not going to go into loads of band names, but Elliott Smith springs to mind. It's always, it comes from your life. You're taking from your life and you're putting stuff out there. It's good for you. It gives you a sense of catharsis, but at the same time, you want it to be good for other people. And I think that for me is what my writing is about. And I think I started to appreciate that back in sort of the middle of 2014, after I'd been on WordPress for several months. I suddenly realized that writing gave me an incredible sense of catharsis. It helped me to come to terms with things in my past that I maybe hadn't opened up about, or I felt that I couldn't open up about. And as a result, I enjoyed writing for that reason, because I knew that there's a quote by I think it's by Hemingway, and he says that in terms of something like well, writing is easy, you just sit down at a typewriter and bleed. And that for me is it. I sit down and I write, and it just all comes out. And sometimes it's very real. Sometimes it's a bit more it's a bit more sort of out there and kooky, as I said yesterday. But it just makes me feel good. It just helps me to understand who I am, and my relation to the world that I live in. And I think as a result, I think that, again, much the same way as when I sort of see musicians that I like, they create for, I think, the same reasons, and then they put it out there because you think that, I think that other people are going to enjoy this. Obviously, there's ego. I think there has to be a certain amount of ego and pretension in art, because you're standing up, whether you're painting or you're taking photos, or whether you're creating music, writing, obviously, you you have to have that pretension and ego, in the sense that you're saying, look, I've created this and I think that it's good enough for other people to enjoy. um, so I think that that's there in my work. I don't think of myself as pretentious per se. I think I'm quite grounded and level-headed, but at the same time, yeah, I think that what I do is is worth other people reading, because I think that, like I said, I think that um, I put a lot of myself into my writing, in terms of emotions and thoughts and reflections. And I think that, again, there's that ego that comes in, and I think that other people would enjoy that. And again, I'm no superstar, but when people have purchased the first book, or they've gone on the blog, and they've read my stuff and they've commented, whenever someone says, even just, I like this, whenever someone said that to me, it's incredible feeling to think that you've put something out there that you didn't have to. No one's ever made me write something, but I've put something out there, and the fact that it touches someone in some way, for me, it's an incredible feeling. And it's this connection. I write for me, but then at the same time, I also write for other people, because you get greedy for that feeling. If ever someone turns around and says, um, I've read your work, I've read this piece, and it moved me, or it made me laugh, or it made me smile, or it made me cry. For me, it sounds kind of cliche for me saying it, but it really does. Um, it really does. It really does. It really does move me. Again, it's that human connection, I think. And I think the older I've got, I'm not like exactly ancient. Like I said, I'm 33, which for writing is young. That's what I'm taking. I'm a youngster in terms of writing. But for me, the older I've got, the more I really do appreciate human connection. Because I think when I was in my 20s, I was just happy going around. I was in several relationships. I was engaged for a while, and I moved to a few places, had a few jobs, and overall I was just going with the flow, I think, like most people sort of do. Um, Whereas when I got to 30, I didn't just think, right, I need to get the proper job, and I need to start sort of like getting that mortgage and all the rest of it. I kind of thought, you know what, I want to dedicate my life to something, I don't know, noble. That sounds wankish, but I want to I really want to dedicate my life to that, again, to expressionism, to creativity, and to to to, to reaching out and touching people. I remember when I first read, I think the first book I ever read that really sort of resonated with me, that really kind of made me sit back and think, wow, was The Outsider by Albert Camus. And it's on one of these bookshelves somewhere, or it might be on that one over there. I'm drifting. I have another bookshelf, um, and it's full of probably about 25 books piled one on top of the other that I've started reading and then have just put down and drifted. So it's on there somewhere. I can see it. Yeah, it's got a little gold star on the spine. I bought it from uh, a bookshop in the town where I was born, which is a place in England called Dunstable, and it's no longer there. It's a Polish shop now. Um, But yeah, I really enjoy going into the book castle. And yeah, again, I'm babbling. So yeah, so I read The Outsider when I was like maybe 16, and it blew me away because up until that point I'd read all these books that were um all about trying to kind of to be, there was razzmatazz, and there was it never really felt genuine, whereas the Outsider I read and I was like, holy shit, there's no bullshit here, this is real. And um and it reached out, and I thought, God, it's, again, it's like, it's almost as if this book was written for me. And it was the same when I read Nausea by Sartre. I just thought, Christ, this book could be about me. And it's like when you listen to a song. I remember the first time I ever listened to the song Time by Pink Floyd, and I was like, wow, this song was like written like 30 years before I first listened to it. And again, it was like, this is describing me. So I love that feeling of when you listen to a song, when you watch a movie, when you read a book, and it reaches out to you and it touches you. And it's not just bubblegum. Some music you listen to, whatever. So if some films you watch and you have your popcorn and then it's over and then bollocks to it. But there you get some works of art that just stay with you, and they touch you. And I could have read Camus, when I was 17, 16, and I could read it now, and it still has that effect. It still resonates with me. And it's the same thing with, music and films. Like, there are certain albums and films I enjoy now, much the same as I did 15, 20 years ago, and they still reach inside of me and they do something to me. And I love that feeling, and I kind of want to give that feeling to others. Again, there's that pretension, but I think that you need to have that pretension, otherwise you just you won't do it. So I think that, yeah, when I after writing for several months on WordPress, that's where I got to. I got to this stage where I thought, you know what, I'm really greedy for people to say that they've been affected by my words. And I became, and it made me want to write more, and it made me want that kind of feedback. um and I've been like that really ever since. Again, there have been ups and downs, there have been sort of detours and so on and so forth, but I think that's why I do it. It's about feeling a human connection. um it's a very it's an intimate feeling, for me to sit down and write something, even if it's, even if it's just a sex scene, or if it's just something slightly dark and kind of you know whatever, even if it's fizzy. It's still a very intimate process for me. And it was, again, when I go back to my art when I was at uni, I remember when I used to paint, influenced by Jackson Pollock mainly, predominantly. Again, there's a Pollock book somewhere there. And I used to, I didn't like painting on traditional canvas. I would paint on curtains and bed sheets I would buy from charity shops. Uh, if anything, just to save money, because canvas was so expensive and I couldn't be bothered stretching it over wooden frames. I didn't have time. I'm a busy man. um, so I would get these curtains and bed sheets, and I would staple gun them up on my studio wall, give it a lick of emulsion paint, and then I was good to go. And I just used to get household paints. I used to go into Wilkinson's. For anyone that's in America, Wilkinson's is like a, I don't know, it's an all-round store. It sells kind of everything, really, apart from sort of fresh food. And so I used to go in there and just buy this household paint, which was relatively cheap. And I used to throw the paint on the canvas. I used to paint with my hands. Um, and for me, it was a very intimate process. I put my music in, Nine Inch Nails or Smashing Pumpkins, and boom. Again, sometimes when you have to explain it, you can't. It's like, I don't know. It's like trying to explain when you're in love. It's, how do you do that? It's such a there's such a sense of magic. But for me, the creative process has always been something that has touched me, that has resonated, and it was there in my paintings, and gradually it's there again in my writing. So when I sit down and I write, it's I just kind of lose myself, you know. It's like you imagine, if you're in the act of lovemaking, you lose yourself. Well, you do if you do it right, I guess. Um, you know, you can't. It's like the outside world just kind of isn't there. And I guess it's why a lot of people take solace or push themselves in the art process, in the creative process, because, you know, the outside world just drifts away. Maybe you've got problems. Like, again, for me at the time, I was lovesick. Other people, maybe they've got problems here, problems there, whatever, you know. Everyone's different, everyone's unique. Um, so yeah, for me, when I'm in the art, when I'm in the creative process, when I'm there, when I'm writing, I'm just in my own world. I'm in my own bubble, and that sort of feeling I get is incredible, and it even sort of stays over, to when I'm editing. I actually quite enjoy editing. I know a lot of people don't, in terms of sifting through for typos and whatever, but I do, because I think that it's for me, when I write, when I'm in the act of writing, I'm in there and I don't see anything else. And when I come back and edit the next day, that's the equivalent of me stepping back from the canvas and looking for the first time at what I've done. And then that enables me to move this, to change that, to paint over that, to do this. And so I actually quite enjoy editing. It allows me to fine tune, and it allows me to just perfect it. Um, and then after that, I get bored of it. It's done, and I need to move on again. It's a bit like a drug. I don't know if I wrote that, or if I was just thinking about it at some point. But writing, for me, the creative process is a drug, because it's like when I'm in the midst of my kind of creative euphoria, it's like boom. It's like I'm there. Nothing else matters. And then once I press publish on the blog, it's like, oh, I feel at a loose end. It's like I've just come down. It's like I've sobered up, and I sort of, I potter around and I think, shit, what am I doing now? And then I need to sort of get back into the whole writing process again, because I kind of feel lost. I think probably the other aspect of it is, again, I'm not sort of old, but I think one of the things is mortality. I think mortality, um, I think has influenced, you know, a lot of artists, musicians, painters, writers, etc., etc. Because when I was in my 20s, although I experienced death, firsthand, you know, immediate family members, and obviously secondary family members, and people that I just knew, friends. Although I experienced death, it never really sunk in. I always kind of thought that I was going to live forever. And then I think I reached 30, and my granddad passed away, who I mentioned yesterday, and then my dad got cancer, and again he recovered, he's in remission, which is fantastic. But yeah, that's when suddenly I kind of thought, shit, I'm gonna die one day, and then that's when I sort of pulled my finger out. Really, that's when I suddenly thought, well, shit, I can't just be lazy anymore. I still am lazy, but I can't just do what I was doing. I have to suddenly, and that's it. That fear of mortality is what really sort of pushed me in my work. It really sort of pushed me forwards. I mean, I've been a dreamer all my life. You know, ever since I was a little boy. I kind of, when I was at school, and you know, infants, junior, secondary. I think you've talked to anyone that's ever met me, they'll always say that I was, you know, a dreamer and a bit sort of out there. And I've always had these visions and ideas and fantasies in my head. And when I was at uni, I was able to paint them. I was able to put them on canvas. And then for a few years, I kind of just went off the boil. I didn't really, I don't know. Again, it's sort of laziness. It's sometimes I've been in a relationship and I've took my foot off the pedal. But yeah, I kind of for a few years I kind of lost it a bit, and I didn't really push myself that much. And then, like I said, it was when I got to 30 that I suddenly thought, well, shit, if I were to drop dead tomorrow, what would I have to show for my life? And that's a big thing, because I think that you can be, again, I wrote something like this on one of my blogs, I think, a little while ago, but you can live your life and you can be really happy, and you can, and I think that's good. If you live your life, you're happy, you don't piss around with other people, I think that's tremendous, and I think that's to be applauded. And I think that if you were to die tomorrow, if you were happy in your life, boom, job done. But obviously, I think that the role of an artist, when you're an artist, it's about kind of leaving a footstep. For some people, for a lot of people, I guess, footsteps are family. You have children, and those children have grandchildren, and there's that cycle. And for maybe some people, that is their legacy, and I think that's fantastic. I don't criticize that at all. I think that's brilliant. If you raise a family, and that family sort of, and you have those grandchildren and great grandchildren and so on and so forth, I think fantastic, brilliant. But for me, it's again, selfishly, egotistically, it's it's always been about my art. I want to leave something. I want to be able to leave something behind and say I did things differently. I took a risk. Um, and that's what I'm doing now, I think. Like I said, in my 20s, I went off the boil and I didn't really do anything. I was still very creative in my head, but if I dropped dead, people would have been like, well, Stephen didn't really do much with his life. He was just had his head in the clouds. Whereas I think now I've got my head in the clouds still, but I've got something to show for it. I've got these footsteps, this documentation of my journey of how I see the world, and how I view the world. And that, I think, again, I was thinking of this earlier. One thing that I think is very important is, and I don't have an answer to this, so I'm just sort of putting it out there. But I think that we all feel that in terms of in the creative realm, in terms of, again, writing, photography, music, um, we all feel that when we do something, that it's worthwhile, and that it's worth other people kind of reading or seeing or listening to. Um, but every so often, I think I sort of ask myself, well, again, what makes my writing worth reading? You know, seriously. I mean, I would obviously say that it's worth reading because I put a lot of time and effort into it. But why is it worth reading? Why is it that what you do is worth other people's time? And again, I'm not saying that I have the answer to that. It's something that I'm always thinking about. But it's definitely an interesting question to ponder. What is it that about what you do that is worth other people's time? Um, Again, that's again, it's a tricky question. Because again, you can turn around and say, well, it's good. um, no shit, Sherlock. Or but that's it. And again, that sort of takes me on. I'm drifting. That takes me on to when people say to me that, what's your writing about? What's your book about? And then I sort of go, oh, and again, it's a tricky one to try and really sort of sell yourself in that sense. I don't really like bullshitting. I don't like I guess we all bullshit to a certain extent, but I don't really like it when people kind of, even when I was like writing the blurb on the back of my first book, you know, I can't even remember what it says. It's behind me somewhere. It's that book, this there, that sort of grey book, A Journal for Damn Lovers, and I sort of write. Let me see. This is it. This is my first book, which I'm proud of now. It's sort of like a younger me after the accident. I'm proud of now, but the second one for me is the biggie. I was thinking when I publish the second one, I'll do some readings or something. I'll kind of I'll read from it. I think that would be quite interesting. Again, the first one is a lot more abstract, and it's the writing style is a bit more fractured. Again, I'm not I shouldn't be slagging it off, but it's a good book. I'm very proud of it, and it's not like I keep on slating it all through yesterday's video and through today's. I'm constantly slating it, saying it's too abstract, it's too out there. I think it's really good. I'm incredibly proud of it, but I just think the second one's going to be better. Um, but yeah, it's a collection of prose that documents the fledgling footsteps of a failed lover come writer, beginning with the end of romance and leading to the discovery that a desire to write is not only a healing mechanism, but a way of embracing a fearful new future. Damn Lovers is both an attempt by the author to reclaim his past and to explore the realms of love and loss amidst a landscape of faded photographs, hangovers, and a sense of melancholy, both beautiful and numbing. S.K. Nicholas is a postgraduate of the University of Reading, England. This is his first novel. So that's kind of, I guess, on that kind of explains it. But even then, when I was writing that, I just kind of wanted to write on the back, it's a book of thoughts. You know, I don't like it when I have to try and sound sort of fancy in that sense, because I don't like it when I see other people writing you know, a blurb for their book, and it sounds so sort of like this or that, and I just think, cut the crap, be honest. um but that is it. And I think the second one is again, it's a collection of prose, and it's very much those fledgling footsteps. I think that I can't believe that there was a time when I wasn't really documenting my life. When I go back and I think about years when I never really did. And I think it's good that you can go through life, and if you're happy, fantastic. But for me, I think that if you've got one chance of living, then you should do something a little bit different. Again, I've lost myself. I've lost my train of thought. I've gone around it a bit, but yeah. So I think that it is about doing something different, and I think that it is about trying uh, trying to search. It's about search. It's about discovery. That's what all kind of art is about, isn't it? You're documenting the world that you exist in, the worlds that exist in your head, um, and you're leaving these footsteps, and you're reaching out to people. Obviously, that takes me back to that sense of intimacy that you have. I just think that, yeah, it's very profound when I sit down and blog. It's a very profound experience, and it's it's amazing because there are people out there that since I've started writing that I've met, you know, that feel the same way, and it's incredible to kind of when you meet people that kind of that know that kind of dig that. I think it's wonderful. You know, I guess it's like if you're a fan of cars or something, and you meet someone that likes cars as well, and you go, "Way, we both like cars." Obviously, I think writing, not slagging off cars. Cars are great; they get you from A to B. But I think that when you meet someone that really kind of appreciates that kind of what's in there and what's in there. When I said there, that's heart. I don't mean my throat. Um, that's an amazing feeling to when you click with other people in this country, in around the world. That's profound. That really is profound, and I think in many ways that means more to me than money. Like I said, I'd love to earn good money. at some point from writing, but to reach out and touch people and to be touched by others, not in a rude way, but yeah, it's definitely what drives me and what keeps me doing what I do over and over again. I think that's what it's all about, really. Um, there's a lot of cars going past. I hate cars, really, if I'm being honest. Um, so yeah, that's what I've been doing really with the blog for 3.5 years. Again, ups and downs, but every time I sit down, there's a search going on. I can't just rely on the last piece I did. It was like when I was at uni, and I would paint something, and for a couple of days after, I would hang it up, and I would feel really good about it. But then it was obsolete. It was like I've taken a photo, it's over. And it's the same thing with writing. I could write something that I really enjoy, and maybe other people could turn around and say, oh, really liked what you did the other day. But then after, maybe just a day or half a day, for me, it's gone. It's again, I need that fix. I need another fix. I need another high. And it's that kind of that constant sort of chase. It's a life pursuit, and like I said yesterday, it's it really is a labor of love in terms of doing what you do. It's like, again, all of these books and all of the movies around me. You're constantly searching for a certain truth, even when you lie. That there's truth inside the lie. I think that was Picasso said that, or art is the truth inside the lie. I think Picasso was all right. He was a frisky old devil. He was. Um, he was a good man. I never met him. I think he died in the 70s. And so yeah, it's I think it's about that truth. It's about the lie. It's about intimacy. It's just very um, very profound. And it's something that I think, again, for me now, it's something I couldn't give up on. I think that it's once you get pulled into it, you become its victim, in a sense. You become a slave. But again, it's an addiction that I wouldn't give up on. It's that the artistic addiction. There's no other way. And I think that it's when it works, it's brilliant. But then when it doesn't work, when I've written something and it doesn't work, or I've written something and people don't quite respond to it, then it's devastating, because you think, shit, what am I doing wrong? And some people, like I said in the first video, they give up. But I think for me, it's like it just spurs you on. You think, if you've written something and it doesn't get a response, then it's about, right, why didn't it get that response? What was the problem with it? Why didn't people like it? Why wasn't it not profound enough? Was it not intimate enough? Was it too this? Was it too that? Um, so yeah, that's where I'm at with that. I was going to try and go up to an hour, which means I've got about 17 minutes left. And I'm trying to think what I could talk about for that. But within reason, I don't want to start going off and start babbling again. Although I might do. I think that it's always nice to babble. Like I said, it's me doing these videos is as much for me, in a sense, because again, when I sit down and write these things, when I sit down and say these things, it's it's quite interesting. It can be quite difficult to, like I said at the beginning, why do I do what I do, and what do I expect from it, and what do I expect people's reactions to be? That it can be a very tricky one to try and explain. I was chatting to someone the other day about writing. Like I said, I've got the second journal coming out at the end of this month, which is October 2017. And they said to me, when are you going to go to a proper publisher, And I said, well, I'm not good enough yet. And they were like, well, you've got to do it soon. Da, 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 da. How do you know when you'll be good enough? And I said, well, how do you know when you're in love? You know, you can't be told when you're in love. You know it. be made to be in love with someone. You just know it, and I think that for me is it's all to do with that magic, isn't it? With writing again, it's like you can feel it in your bones. It's a very mystical process, and again, it's one that I really wouldn't change for the world. It's it's made me a slave, but I'm sort of happy in that slavery. You know, I'd much rather be a slave to the word than to, the usual sort of drudgery and bullshit that people sort of dedicate their lives to. Again, sound like a pretentious twat. I am. Um, but it's true. It's that I think that for me is the thing with writing. It's like when you dedicate your life to something that only you can really do, that only you can, only I guess, could have written this book, And I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world, but if I didn't write this, then who would? If I didn't write the second journal, again, who would have written it? And if I don't write the piece that I'm going to put on the blog tonight, who would? And I think for me, that's the point. It's about sort of standing up for what you believe in. And I think it's something that's always frustrating in terms of being creative, as I've had a lot of people in my life sort of try and dissuade me from from following this path because it wasn't profitable, it wasn't fashionable, it wasn't sensible. But it's frustrating because I think that uh, it's like, well, what would you rather me do? Just to become regular and normal, to become like everyone else? For me, that's a very poisonous. I think that if you want to do something, then I think that you have to do it, and it takes a lot of guts. I think it genuinely takes a lot of guts to stand up for what you believe in, and to keep on going. I remember when I first started the blog, My Red Abyss, and I don't tend to. For those of you that don't know, on WordPress you can see your stats. So you can see how many people a day go on your site, and how many people in the week and the month, the year, and so on and so forth. I used to check it quite a lot, but now I don't really tend to. I just tend to go by what people sort of say, what they comment, how they comment, and I guess the likes. Everyone likes a like. Um, but yeah, so I used to sort of check my stats on WordPress, and no one used to go on there. Literally, no one. No one went on. No one visited. No one liked my writing, and it was frustrating. It's like, it really sort of bothered me because it's like shit. I'm writing every night, and no one is looking at what I'm doing. And I was sharing the stuff on Facebook and Twitter. Eventually, when I got my Twitter, and again, no one was really interacting with it, and it can be very very upsetting. But again, it's like you can go two ways. You can give up and think, fuck it, I'll do something else, or you can just keep at it and you can strive to get better. And that's what I did. I kept going, and I wanted to get better, because I knew that I had it in me. And I don't think you should ever strive to just because you want to prove someone wrong. I think that you should never really do that. In terms of me wanting to make a success out of my writing, I'm not doing it because I want to prove to other people. But at the same time, it kind of would be quite nice, I think, to say to people, look, I could have given up, I could have quit, but I didn't. I kept at it because I believed it. I felt that I had it in me, But again, once you take that gamble, once you go down that path, it's something else. With I guess it's like going down the rabbit hole, It's like it's a bit tacky, I guess, to use this kind of to reference this, but it's like in the Matrix film, when Morpheus hands the two pills to Neo and says, "You can take the red pill or the blue pill." Um, Once you take that pill, once you kind of once you see the world in a different way, you can't unsee it. And I think that for me is like I said, in terms of the last few years, in terms of the writing process, it's I can't go back to how I was. I, if I tried to stop writing um, tonight, I couldn't. If I tried to do something more sensible, if I tried to just dedicate myself to an office job and whatever, I couldn't do it. I've just become it's an obsession, you know. But like I said, it's for me, yeah, if I could sell copies of the book and make money, that would be fantastic. But it's always about when you get that human connection going, when someone reacts to you, when someone tells you that they've read your work and it made them feel a certain way. I think for me that is how I know if I'm doing something right. It's like if I can write something and someone says that they enjoy it and that it moves them. For me, that's incredible. That's like it really is something else. It's that human connection, and I think that's what really drives me to do what I do. And again, some people I would say that to, and they would go, whatever. But fuck it, fuck you. It's like again, once I'm not old, but once I got to this time in my life, I'm like, look, you know what? If you don't believe in me or my words, then see ya. I think again you become quite not hardened because I'm a lot more emotional than I ever used to be, but I become intolerant of other people's doubt. I can doubt myself. I think again, artists, you need to doubt yourself, and we always doubt ourselves too much, and you need to do it because it helps you to improve. It helps you to constantly raise the bar. So you need that doubt. But I think that whenever somebody else starts doubting you, they doubt your commitment to Sparkle Motion. Donnie Darko reference, I didn't just go mental. But yeah, so whenever somebody else doubts you or gives you that look, I just think, ah, see ya. I've had that moment many times in my life when someone said to me, "What do I do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a writer." And then they just give me that look, that sort of "Hmm," like that, and I just think, you know what, I'm not even gonna, I can't be bothered with you, sod ya, you know. Um, Again, it's like if you feel it, if you felt that kind of that sense of intimacy that you get with the creative act, then you know it. If you've never felt it, then whatever. Again, I'm gonna try and I've got like 7 minutes. Um, I haven't even really done that today, to be honest. I think I'm over that. I don't care. I've got, yeah, 7 minutes to just sort of take it up to an hour, um, without sort of wanting to babble too much. After this, I will edit. I'll probably have a Red Bull, to be honest, sugar free. I'll have a Red Bull. I'll edit the journal, the second journal. I've got something like 70 pages left, so hopefully I can get it done by the end of the week, and then I can quickly work on the blurb, send it off for the proof copy. What are we on? Yeah. So I'll do that. I'll edit another blog that I wrote last night. I haven't looked at it again since. Um, yeah. Look at my phone. Look at my phone. I smashed my phone. Look at that. It's dreadful. I have a very bad temper when it comes to technology, and yeah, I punched my phone. I've broken so much shit in my life. The amount of laptops I've broken, phones, old CD players back in the day, not iPads, what do you call it? The MP3 players. Um, I've I have a temper. I'm very mild-mannered. I'm a very mild-mannered person. I've never been in a fight in my entire life. What a pussy. What a pussy. But I've never been in a fight. I just think, why the fuck should I fight someone? And people that have never started on me, because maybe I don't know, maybe I just look odd and they think they don't trust me. But yeah, I don't get into fights. I don't deal with the whole alpha male bullshit. You know, when you walk down the street and you see some guy sort of doing that, I just look at him and think, you twat. Just do you want my respect because you're a big and you kind of walk and you spit on the sidewalk, you retard. Fuck you. So anyway, that's my little rant over. So yeah, I'm not a violent person, but I'm violent with technology. I just lose it because for me, if you're supposed to, if I buy something, spend money on something, then then you work. If you don't work, I lose it. So yeah. So anyway, that's me and my violent temper with technology. But yeah, I listen to music is another one. I think I was going to talk about sort of motivations in terms of I've talked about motivations in terms of why I do it and what I look for when I'm doing it in terms of that intimacy. But in terms of the symbolism and the imagery in my work, I was going to sort of talk about that, but I haven't really got into it. I'll leave that to another day. Um, but in terms of the music, does a lot to me in terms of writing. It's it opens up doors. Again, I've always been creative, but for a long time I was very closed. I was never in touch with my emotions. I was just a very closed individual. And over the past few years, I've come out of my shelf. I've come out of myself, and obviously writing has allowed me to express myself. But music is something else. Music is uh, again, it does something to me, and it's like it's the equivalent of having a drink. You know, when you stereotypically, if you have a drink and you loosen up, you limber up, and you start kind of spewing stuff which is more close to the bone than you would normally. So music has a profound effect on me. And just recently, I've been listening to not that I've just discovered him, but I've mentioned him before, Elliott Smith. I think if you've never listened to his stuff, you have to. He died in 2003. Not, I think I was just in my first year at university, and and yeah, it's a tragedy. He killed himself. Some people say he was murdered. Who knows? But yeah, music. Listen to Elliott Smith. Um, the first album I ever got was Basement on the Hill, which was the one which was released posthumously. Amazing, amazing. I listen to it now. Songs like um, Fond Farewell, Ugly Before, and A Passing Feeling. I listen to them and just it sort of cuts me through my defenses. It pierces the armor, and suddenly I'm just yeah, I'm away. I'm in that mood. The other album that I really enjoy, well, there's a couple. Either or, Punch and Judy is my favorite song on that. I'll probably listen to that actually. I'll run myself a bath later and a hot bath, and I'll listen to that music, and then that'll get me in the mood, not for anything sordid or vulgar, but for writing. um so yeah, so listen to Elliott Smith, and I'll be blogging at myredabyss.com. um yeah, I fully expect these videos to get four views, four thumbs down, four thumbs downs, and four seedy, offensive comments like "shut up, you big twat," or "get a new face, you idiot," or you're a gimp. Stop writing, stop talking, and have a shave. I do need a shave. It's sometimes it gets quite big. That's what she said. Oh, that was low, especially on YouTube. Shouldn't be doing that. I might be kicked off for inciting lewdness. But yeah, when the second journal's out, I'll read from it. There's some nice pieces in there. Um, some naughty ones as well. People like the naughty pieces. Um, Sometimes they tell me they like the naughty pieces, and that makes me feel good about myself. Again, it's all about that intimacy. I'm going to go now. I'm going to have a bath, and I'll probably have a cup of tea and a cigarette. Shouldn't, but I'm gonna. Thank you. Goodbye. Good luck.